just went to Stacks and Snacks last Saturday, and it was so much fun. It was so fun being in a bookish space with, like, it was a book fair, and I got to meet other authors, and just, it was a lot of fun. I sold out of all the books except for one. So that's super exciting. I had so much fun, and I look forward to doing more book events in the future. So yeah, that was super fun. And yeah, so I'm still kind of in that mode of just happy, having fun, sort of a feeling. And so that's kind of how I'm going to describe this spooky book. I have been definitely on a spooky book ride recently. I've got a couple of fantasy books, though, coming up on my list, so we'll see how I like those. And maybe you'll see some fantasy, me talking about that in the next few weeks. But I definitely have a few more spooky books on my library list, so we'll see what order it comes through in. So, for today, I want to talk about The Changing Man by Tomi Oyemakinde. So, this book, it's spooky, it's got boarding school, it's a contemporary, it's got a little elements of horror, it's got mystery, it's a creepy mystery, really. There's at least one monster creature, and so, yeah, it's got a lot of good stuff. Now, let's start with our main character. Okay, so Ife, she is a black girl who is entering and kind of adjusting to this new boarding school. And this boarding school mostly has kind of wealthy, privileged white kids in it. And so she feels kind of like an odd one out. But she's there, trying to adjust, but it's hard with being apart from her family and her friends, and she feels this sort of tugging longing to be closer to her friends, especially her best friend Santa, and she's worried that, like, oh, what if Santa's, like, moving on, making new friends without me, and it's so hard to be apart from friends. I'm experiencing that quite a bit right now, and have been for the past couple years, because I have about a dozen friends that I'm really, like, feel connected to, but they are all over the world. There are so many different cities that I feel like a piece of me in, because I have one or two friends that, went all over the place, so I feel kind of this sort of yearning connection of going, I wish I could see them more often, but I also have to just remind myself it's okay. I'm doing okay here. They're doing okay there. But Aoife is having a lot more difficulty with that. And I mean, she's a teenager, she's in high school, so she's dealing with this earlier than I did, really, because I'm out of college, but she's in high school struggling with this, and this whole book really has a lot of themes on friendship, and I love that so much. But before we get really into that, let's talk a little bit more on Aoife. So that's Aoife's kind of mindset going into this, especially with this really hard school. It's very strict. Like, they're strict for, it seems like, sort of no reason sometimes. And she's just trying her best. But she just, every time she wants to stand up for herself, the words just kind of get choked back. So, yeah. Lot of stress. And, like, one thing that's kind of getting her through is the idea of seeing Xana, because they had a meetup arranged. But whenever she goes out to see her, plans So, Ife sneaks out with a classmate in hopes of getting a ride with them to go see Xana. But this classmate, Malika, so Malika doesn't show, and that's unlike her. So Ife's out in the dark, and it starts getting a little creepy, especially because there are rumors going around that there's something wrong with the forest surrounding the school. Spooky, spooky. Now, Ife doesn't really necessarily believe in the supernatural, but she's not gonna, completely dismiss it, right? So, whenever she sees, these weird blue flowers and mushrooms that are just kinda, not quite right, and that goes along with the urban myth, that the school has, that in the forest there is something called the Changing Man, and the Changing Man leaves behind these wilting and weird sort of plants, and also the Changing Man might take you away, just like one of Ife's classmates' brother. I may have gotten the possessive form a little wrong there, but just to mention, Ife has a classmate named Ben, and Ben's brother, Leon, went missing. And so there are a bunch of different pieces, a bunch of different mysterious pieces going on. And with Malika suddenly not showing up, it gets a little weird, and Ife gets worried. So the next day, Malika doesn't show up for some of her classes, and Ife gets worried, especially because it starts echoing a little bit what sounded like what happened to Ben's brother, of him going missing one night. So Ife starts to connect with Ben to just kind of check in, be like, hey, how did you know something was wrong initially, And they have a rocky start. It's a very rocky friendship. But it's so good. I love their friendship throughout the book, and I love the friendship that develops between Ife and another classmate, because as things start becoming more mysterious, Ife decides to investigate, and so she enlists the help of a classmate who's been trying to be friends with her, and her name is Bijal. And the two of them together can figure out more about the history of the place, because Bijal has a lot of knowledge on the school grounds and such, and the history. So things start getting kind of weird, and the three of them, Ife, Bijal, and Ben, decide to investigate together, because they all have stake in figuring out what is wrong with the school and what's up with the forest. What does the Changing Man, if he exists, have to do with this? And then what's even more weird is that Malika does not stay missing. So Malika, after being, gone for a few classes, just shows up at school. But she's hanging out with a group of kids, the popular group, that she made fun of before. And Ife finds this weird, because Malika suddenly is no longer dressed as she normally is. She looks a lot more like the popular kids group. And her change in personality is so drastic. When Ife confronts her, Malika doesn't seem to think anything weird happened with not picking up Ife the previous night and such. And just, it's so weird and so not her that Ife gets suspicious. Because it's not like it doesn't seem like Malika to just suddenly overnight, literally overnight, switch up her entire personality, her entire outfit, her entire being, sense of being, and yeah. So, all those pieces just kind of, they seem all like far away and distant, but all those little bits of weird start coming together as Ife learns more and more about what's going on at the school, to where, yeah, everything is connected, but it doesn't look like it at first, and that's what makes a good mystery, you know? So, that's so fun about this book. That and the really, really strong friendship themes throughout, especially when it comes to the main trio. So, they all kind of have a rocky start and a sort of unconventional start to their friendships. Aoife and Bijul and Ben. Because they don't even really want to be friends in the beginning, and they're just kind of tied together by a shared purpose. But then they start to actually like work through their insecurities and their issues with each other and with themselves. It's very reflective, and I loved the journey, the character growth that Aoife went through, especially, but all three of them, you know, it was a lot, and it was great. I loved it. In addition to Aoife's character growth, she really does like make a lot of mistakes, not out of like being unreasonable, because I can understand where she's coming from given the emotions and the thoughts that she shares on the page, but like her friends can't read her mind, so of course it's going to cause some dissonance whenever she acts blunt and doesn't explain why she's pushing away people who are trying to be there for her. But it all comes back to the whole feeling insecure about her friendships thing and missing the people that she's not around so much that she doesn't allow herself to like open up to new friendships where she is. So just, yeah, a lot of good friendship themes in this novel, and I love it. And yeah, and on top of all that, you know, there's the twists that were fun, and the way the Changing Man stuff comes in is very, I feel like it's unique, because it's very intriguing at first when you don't really know entirely what's going on, and then when you do, it wasn't entirely what I expected. So that was really cool. The monster kind of felt, unique. I'll just say that without giving away anything else. And there were definitely good creepy parts of the book, and moments where you're going, I don't know who to trust, you know? And that's always fun in a mystery. And it's so sad that Aoife like feels so isolated and alone at times. Because it makes sense. I mean, you're not gonna just these tiny little weird things that are all disconnected kind of sound weird to try to bring up to your family, you know, or your friends from afar, to say like, oh yeah, there's something weird going on at this school because my classmate changed their personality and there are weird plants, you know, like, unless you experience it yourself, there's not, it feels a little too like you're reaching for something to be there when it isn't. And just maybe the urban myth of the Changing Man just got into Aoife's head too much. But no, there actually is like weirdness going on that she investigates. And I mentioned her family, so her family kind of plays like a role mostly in just kind of showing that she's isolated from people who she loves, because they're very warm, they're very familiar, and they are also like, they believe in Aoife, you know, they believe that she has what it takes to take on this boarding school. Now they don't realize there's, you know, like, monster and horrifying aspects to it, but they do believe in her. And that was really cool to see. And there's something about in my notes, I wanted to make sure to mention the representation, because also in her family, they speak Yoruba, and they're, she has Nigerian parents, and so, I just thought that was cool to see that on the page. I love whenever books include languages other than English, so that I can learn just a little bit, you know. But yeah, so in terms of representation as well, Ife is black. She's a black girl at a predominantly white school, but there are also other characters like Bijal who are like different races, so not just a white cast. And also her family, Ife's family, is black, so you have kind of that isolating factor as well, that she's a person of color in, a black woman of color in a affluent white school, you know. And so that's another aspect of the whole changing personality thing that I forgot to mention, but is really important, because Malaika is one of the only other black girls in school. So Malaika used to make fun of those preppy white girls, the popular ones, and then the next day she became one of them. Like, that's another aspect of the weirdness that Ife found really weird. And so I can't believe I forgot to mention that part. That's very important, because yes, race does play a part in, like, just how uncomfortable the situation ends up getting. How do I explain? It's kind of like if you read, when was that, last week or the week before, I did a video on The Forest Demands Its Due, that book. So it's kind of like that situation. Or if you've seen the movie Get Out, it has kind of similar themes, where being a black person in a predominantly white environment plays a big part in the horror. Yeah. So that's kind of what I mean by just mentioning that is very important. And that's all my notes. Actually, I covered that pretty quickly. Yeah, it was a good experience of a book. I loved it. The horror aspects and the friendship themes really were just, like, absolutely what made this book so amazing. 'Cause, yeah, I feel like I haven't read enough books recently where the friendships are, like, the main focus of the book. And I mean, I love romance. Romance is great. But I was pleasantly surprised that romance wasn't, like, a big focus in this book, when I kind of expected it to maybe be. But no, it was friendship the entire time, and I was going, that's really cool. I love that. Especially for a young adult audience, where if someone's really relating to Ife's feelings on being apart from her friends and making new friends and stuff, like, I think there's a lot of really good points in this book that can maybe help just kind of remind anybody, but especially teenagers who are kind of for the first time going through being apart from their friends, just kind of reminding of just like, hey, it's okay for you to make new friends, for them to make new friends. You can still be connected even though you are apart. And I think it just, like, comes down to just showing a bit of effort on your end, and if they're reciprocating it, then that's just like keeping in communication. I mean, communication really is just the answer to so many problems, especially interpersonal. I mean, that's just communicate, and you don't even have to be blunt or like extremely frank about your feelings, but just kind of a little bit here and there helps to mend long distance friendships, that kind of thing. And I think more people are up for continuing long distance friendships than maybe what most people think, which is a little funny of a thing to say. But I think a lot of people, including myself, kind of get it in our heads to think like, oh, what if they don't want to be friends with me anymore because they're so far away and stuff, and it just, don't let your own self like talk you down like that. That's kind of, yeah, I feel like this book does a good job of driving home those points, especially in a really like tense situation. So yeah, okay, so I think that's all I have for today. Yeah. So yeah, that's The Changing Man. And yeah, it's a good time. So thank you for listening. You are an awesome listener, and I hope that whatever you do next, wherever you go next, that it is fun and or relaxing